So welcome everyone to creating easy and accessible Microsoft PowerPoint presentations. I'm Neil Harry Beck. I'm the Assistive Technology Projects Lead at Techability. If you've got any questions today, as I said, just save them to the end if possible, but feel free to put them into the chat as we go along. And we can start off with a question, and it'll help guide us with what we're going to do next. Why do we use PowerPoint presentations? So do we use it to show lots and lots of data? Do we do it to make content more complicated or more simple? And I think the answer to that is, if you want something with lots of data, you want a report or you want something written. The idea with PowerPoints is that you're not including lots of written information, and we're trying to make the content more simple. So less is more. Do we use it to make it easier for us to structure our thoughts? For me, yes. This is how I start thinking about how I'm going to deliver on a certain topic. I'll start with the slides and kind of work out from titles and then fill it out. Does it replace the power of our voices? No, certainly not. A PowerPoint presentation should be something where you are able to use your presentation skills and able to use verbal communication and everything else that comes along with it, including the video and everything else, like the physical cues, especially in person. And should it make our material more accessible and interesting? Yes, definitely. So we'll be covering especially the accessibility point today more than anything. Use it or lose it. So after this, I advise, if you've got an idea of something that you want to present, start a presentation as soon as you can, just so you can put into use some of the things that you've learned today. You can even have PowerPoint open now if you want. It depends how you work. I'd probably not have it open. I'd be on the webinar, but some people like to do as they're learning. Rome wasn't built in a day, so just take a few things from today's webinar if it's all a bit too much all at once. And you'll have the recording and the slides all sent out to you, so you can dip into it and come back to it whenever you want. Have fun, have a play with it. Remember, you're not going to break anything. It's just having a go with things and learning. So just before we start, online versus desktop. There's the online version, which you open through a browser, or there's the desktop version that you open just through Windows. The desktop version has more features and it works without internet connectivity, that should say. Online is easier to collaborate, so you have automatic saving and you can both be working on slides at the same time. And online is free as well, so you just need to set up a Microsoft account. So that's good to think about if you've got learners who are moving on and might not have the full account. And today it's about thinking kind of what's your role within the organization. These aren't fixed, but generally we're looking for different levels of skills. So the technologists and the IT professionals, we want you to be thinking of creating templates, running training sessions, audits to check what's being delivered through your PowerPoint slides, and creating guides on use of things like inbuilt accessibility checkers. And you can use this webinar as well, so feel free to embed that and use it as you will, or the slides for that matter as well. For student facilitators, the people who are just supporting students day by day, just check that your students can access the resources and just highlight the issues as they occur. For teachers, we'll be looking to create and maintain accessible resources, understand the accessibility principles as we're going through today, and again, highlight the issues as they occur. So with those might not work exactly. If you have a particularly IT savvy student facilitator, they might be the ones that are creating templates, and that's down to you. And as I've mentioned templates, I should mention this is a really easy way to start off with some accessibility. And if you're looking to get buy-in from your organization, then they should know that it can improve marketing, it can improve the efficiency of how you create slides, and it can also improve the accessibility. And what we've got on the right-hand side, if I go to my templates, these are the layouts that I've got. So we've got a title slide, and that'll be there at the start. The main one that I use is the second one down on the left-hand side, title and content. That's the vast majority that I use. So even if you just created a template just with a title slide and a title and content slide, you'd be great. You'd already be covering so much. There's a few others that are worth it there. Section headers can help break things up. A blank one can be quite useful if you've got a lot of content that you want to lay out as well. So I'm not going to go to great depth on templates. It is something that we can do as a separate issue, though, if we want to. If you're starting from scratch, you can use online templates as well. So within PowerPoint, if you go to File and New, it'll give you the option to go online and use templates that are already there. So those will already be predominantly accessible. If you're making something yourself, then just aim for simple. The page shouldn't look too busy. What I've got on my page, which is a kind of orange banner at the top left, we've got some logos at the top right, and then along the bottom we've just got a little bit of a kind of decorative theme there. That's probably enough. Any more than that, and I think it would be too busy a page with the content as well. And again, you've always got the option of the blank if you want to cut out some of that as well. That makes it more accessible. Now, this slide, I think, has too much text, and I've done it deliberately. So when we're talking about structure, less is more on a slide, because I'm talking, and at the same time, you've got a lot of text to read there. So are you able to pay attention to what I'm saying, or are you reading, or are you doing both badly? I know I do both badly. So I'm just going to come out of the presentation for a second. Okay, so this is a bit too much text. So a little thing that I often do is I'll right click on the slide itself. I'll go to duplicate slide, and then I'll keep the first, I mean, how many bullet points have we got there? 5. So I'll probably keep the first 3 on one, and then the second 2 on the other. So from the first one, I'll just delete those 2. And from the next one, I'll delete 3 there. We might want to change the picture, but for the sake of this, I think it's fine. If it doesn't look quite right, you can play about with some kind of spacing, kind of line spacing, and we could add that, make it a little bit bigger if we want. For today, we're just going to keep that simple. So now we've made that a little bit more simple. So I can remove that as well, because I've demoed what it's like to cut that down. So let's go back to the PowerPoint slide. And if I just share the whole thing now, you can see that it looks a lot more simple. There we go. So that's a lot more simple. You've just got 3 things, which 3 is generally a good rule. There are exceptions to that, but 3 is a great kind of thing to have enough to read to make your points, but not too much that you're overwhelmed. So less is more, and you can cut down your title. So rather than me saying less is more because blah, 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 just 3 words, and then you do the talking. So you go into the depth with what you say, and your words are simple. You can start just with section headings and slide titles. I can show you what that looks like in a second. And you can present with just that. There's no reason why you can't just have a single word on a page and a picture and talk about it. There's a type of presentation called, I think it's called, don't test me on that, Pecha Kucha or something like that. And it's the idea of just presenting with images. So you have an image on the screen and you talk about it. And there's lots of advantages in that, and in not getting caught up in the text and being able to talk better about things. And we're looking for slide titles. So actually, structure is a nice short title. Is it unique? We might have to come back to that. And on every slide, so every slide should have a title, even if it's hidden behind a video or something like that. Having a title there means that people can access it with text-to-speech tools, and that makes it more accessible. And you can restore the design if you've changed the slide as well, so you can go back. So along the left-hand side, if I make this a little bit bigger, you can see my slides here. What I've also got is some section headings, and these are collapsible. So I can collapse these down to show you the format of my slides. So I created these section headings first, and I knew I wanted to talk about templates, different media, accessibility, delivery, and then have some kind of closing slides with resources and things like that. So how we make those, if I wanted to make one here on structure, I click in between where I want to, I right click, I go add section, and then I type in what you want the section to be. And that really helps me to have that, so I know where slides are going, what order things are in, and it helps me have an overview. And I start, as I said, just with the titles of the slides that I want to do and then fill them out. So that's just how I work. Maybe you'll have a different way of doing it, but I figured if you had a way that works for someone, you can find out how you're going to do it and how you're going to make it your own. We've got a videos screen here, and at the moment, this is all we've got. We've just got a link in there. Within PowerPoint, you can actually insert videos, and there's a few different ways to do it. So whichever way we're going to go to insert, and then we're going to go along towards the end here to video. So there's a few different options in video. You can choose from this device if you've already got some pre-recorded videos. You've got stock videos, which I can't see much use for. I don't know, maybe you can think of one. Or online videos as well. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to copy the link from here. We're going to use that as our video link. We're going to get online videos. And then at the top here, there's an address bar. Paste that in. And then insert. And you get a little preview there beforehand. Sometimes that hasn't worked for me, so don't worry if it doesn't. If you hit insert, it should still work. There we go. And there's your video. When you come to the slide, if you just hit using the arrow to click through or the mouse to click through, you do one click to get onto the slide with the video and then another click to play it. And then when you click through again, that should move you on to the next slide. Can be a bit fiddly if you haven't done that before. Then we've got images. So there's a few different options you've got here. Again, go to insert and we're going to pictures. Here we go. So pictures along the side here. And if you just click on pictures, it gives you options of this device. So you might have a folder of your own pictures. That's a really good thing to start as an organization or as an individual is a folder of images that you know are safe, that are good to use. You can use stock images, and there's a separate one which is almost a bit of a tip, and that's to take a screen grab. But if we go to stock images, you can type in just keywords of what you want to talk about. So if I wanted something on presentation, these are the images that come up. It's worth being aware that sometimes these images might not be relevant for your settings, so it's always better to have your own images. But for things that are quite generic, it can be quite useful. And it can be a very quick way to add images into your document. So you just choose whichever image you want and then insert. There we go. You can resize it by clicking on it and taking it down to size. There we go. Okay, as a screen grab, there is a tool in Windows called the snipping tool. And so if you type Windows, type in snipping tool, you can take a certain little bit of a page. So if I wanted to take a little bit of the menu bar up here, I could just capture it and select it and then copy and paste it. That's quite useful and quite good for adding in short little bits that you want. Just make sure that you've got permission to share whatever it is. There's also symbols, which is a really good way to kind of clarify things if you don't have a particular picture or you want it to be simple. So again, we go to insert and it's called icons in here. So we go to icons and you've got all different kinds of icons, lots of different categories. You've got stickers as well, if you want something more fun, illustrations, cartoon people, lots of different options there of just default things that you can just very quickly add to your presentation to make it more accessible. I'm just going to very quickly mention tables. I'm not going to spend a long time on them because the key advice is don't use them if possible within PowerPoint presentations. It's not generally the best format to present complicated data within tables. So I've broken my rule. I've had too much, there's too much information in this slide for a presentation, but that's because it's a reference slide. So if you do need to use tables, these will just give you some pointers. But as you can see, it's fairly complex. So if you can avoid using tables, then do so. Let me just go back to screen share. There we go. So we're going to come on to a little bit of accessibility. There's a really good resource that I like because there's all kinds of complicated resources around WCAG, which is WCAG, which are kind of online standards of accessibility, and they're great, but they're so comprehensive and very complicated. So I really like this Sculpt guide. And if you follow this with structure, as we've talked about having section headers and titles, we're using different color contrasts, so making sure that things stand out. I'll show you a tip on that soon. Use of images, we'll come on to using alt text to make those even more accessible. Links for hyperlinks, using plain English, and table structures. They're saying use simple table without merged or split cells. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's the kind of key thing that people fall down on. And that's quite a handy little kind of cut out and keep guide. In terms of text, we've already mentioned how much info you want on a page, and I've actually put the font size 18 minimum, and that's the size of it. I think that's a bit too small for me, really, because if you had that much text on a page, it'd be too small. But maybe if you were labeling a diagram or something like that, then that font size would be okay. But I generally use a bit higher than 18. There are accessible fonts. You've got Arial, Tahoma, Calibri, quite a few options there. I've included a link there for Scope. I've got some really good guide on font accessibility that goes into more depth. In terms of copying and pasting, there's something that will help you a little bit. If I just come back to the slide, I've copied some text from a document that has different formatting, and if I just paste that in here, you'll be able to see the font the contrast isn't great. So what I can do is, after it's gone in there, I can just hit the drop down box and you've got some different options. Keep the source formatting, which is where it's come from, have it as a picture, which isn't generally accessible, or we can keep the text only, which will mean that it will join the format that we've already got there. So there we see you can make it more accessible by choosing what format you want it into. And one of the other things is hyperlinks should say what they are. So this link here isn't very accessible. So if someone was using a screen reader, it would read out HTTPS, and then it would give you all the symbols, business.scope.org, and it would just be illegible. So what I generally say to do is copy the title. So when you load up the page, copy the title of it, and you can put that in there. Again, we want to just change the formatting to match. And then if we cut that, then what we can do is this text now, select what we want to be a link. We right click, and we go to link, and then you paste in your link there. There we go. And then if we want to add a bit more detail, we can say Scope article on accessible fonts and readability, the basics. So it just says what it is, which is what we're looking for, is more clarity. So one of the most exciting kind of things that's happened in recent years is that Microsoft have really focused in on accessibility, and in particular, the accessibility checker is a really good tool. So the icon in the middle there is to check accessibility. That's what it looks like. You go to the review tab along the top and then check accessibility. And then along the right-hand side, It'll tell you all the things that you're missing or all the things that need to be changed. So this is really good for checking alt text on images, which you need to describe what the image is if you're using a screen reader. It'll help you pick up any missing or duplicate slide titles, and it'll help you sort out the reading order as well. So some people do it as they go along. I prefer to do it at the end, which, as you can imagine, is a lot of work if you've just created quite a big presentation. But I'll show you what that looks like. So if we go to review, and then we go to check accessibility along the top here, then along the side here, oh, we've got all these errors. It looks like quite a lot, so it can feel a bit overwhelming. But these can be quite simple things. So if we start from the beginning, we've got picture 2, and it doesn't have a description. So someone who had a visual impairment might not be able to see what this is. So you can click on add a description, and we just want 1 or 2 detailed sentences. So this is it's the tech ability templates, including title, slide, content slides, and more. I might give people more detail. Depends what I'm trying to show with the image. As long as the alt text covers what you want to show, then that's what we're aiming to do. There is a generate alt text for me. That's generally fairly inaccurate. So let's see what it comes up with. So a screenshot of a computer. Not great. Doesn't really tell me what I want to do with that. So just beware of that. If you've got an image that doesn't really tell a story and is just there for decoration, you can mark it as decorative, and then it won't check it for accessibility in future. And then once you want to get back to the review list, it's just back to this icon above it at the right. And so we'd go through all those alt text and add pictures to it. If I come to another one here and we go back to add a description, it's a really good time to mention another feature. So if we go to home, and then there's a dictate button up here. And what I can do is I can hit dictate and then click in the box. Check accessibility icon. Again, there we go. So I forgot to stop talking. So as you can imagine, for longer kind of descriptions, you can put it in there with your voice and then tidy it up afterwards. So that's the main thing that I use the dictate function for in this. So we've gone through the alt text, so you can make images more accessible. We've also got a missing slide title on slide 24. So we can go to layout here, and we can go back to using our title and content. Here we go. And then I can call that whatever. So free accessibility check-in. There we go. That will do. So it gives me a warning of some subtitles, and then check reading orders, the other big one. So if I go to verify object order, it will give you the order that they're in. So if I click on the top, I can see the picture is the first thing they'd read. That's not really what we want people to read first. We want them to read the title. So I'm just going to drag and drop and move that up. You could use the arrow keys as well along the right-hand side, and that'll put it in smarter order. We still probably want the text before then, so I'll just drop the picture to the bottom. There we go. You can go back and see if that's cleared it up. And it has. There we go. Other things here, we've got a duplicate slide title on slide 10. So I often do, I find it quite useful to do continued if there's just 2 slides, so structure, and then I might just put in brackets, continued. And then if you want to make it look bigger, look a bit better, you can just shrink that down a little bit just so it doesn't stand out too much. Or you can do part 1, part 2, part 3, or just try and be a bit more inventive and try and have more title names. I think I should take my own advice with that. So we've gone through the Microsoft Accessibility Checker. It's really useful, and it's a great way of something that you would have had to manually do before, to be able to just have that. is really useful. So let's just go back to the slides. So we've covered dictate there as well. That was using the voice. Other things, don't use color to code. So you can check in grayscale. Again, you go to review, check accessibility, and then inspect without color. That'll turn everything into grayscale, so you can see how that looks for someone with any kind of color impairment with their vision. There are a few different text-to-speech options. The inbuilt one is quite a robotic voice, but it can work in a pinch. You can use third-party apps such as Text Help and other ones like that. Probably one of the best ways to do it is actually to record your voice in the slides if you're doing it for students. That really adds something to it. You can use subtitles in PowerPoint itself, which is really useful if you're presenting live to someone. But remember, there's also subtitles built into Microsoft Teams and Zoom. So today we're using the captions in Zoom, so we don't need to use it within Microsoft PowerPoint. And for the record your voice, you can go to Insert, Audio, Record Audio. You can hit record to start and then stop when finished, and click OK to save the recording. And it will save it in a little sound file like that. You can choose to make that invisible in the options, but I've kept it here just to show you. And then if I press the arrow to go through to the next slide, it'll play the voice recording. This is an example of the recorded audio feature on Microsoft PowerPoint. Good. In terms of delivery, if you like notes, I'm someone who doesn't generally work from notes, maybe just a few kind of handwritten ones. But if you do have notes, you can print these off, and you can either print these off physically, or you can print them off into a PDF where all your notes will be in one document, and then you can have a document open and your screen to present with. And this is just the print option here, and it just gives you the option of full page slides, notes pages, or outline. So have a play about with those, see what looks best for you. You can change out how many slides are on a page underneath that, and that's quite useful for creating resources. In terms of timings, I generally just try and have a check-in with myself with the sections and have an idea of how far I want to be through the slides. That way I can speed up or slow down as I go through. And I describe images where necessary to make sure that if anyone has a visual impairment, they know what's on the screen that I'm talking about. If you struggle with presenting live, you can use the recording facility, which is really useful to actually run through things in your own time. I actually find that harder because I'm a bit more of a perfectionist, and you want to get it right when you're recording it yourself. But it can be quite useful if you just want to make a resource that will be there for people to access. So just some tips: slow down your talking. If you're running out of time, say less and maintain a consistent speed. Don't mention that you're rushing. Don't mention that you're running out of time. You don't need to share that with people. People will hear the anxiety and the issues that you're having rather than content. And if your content's worth it, stick to the content. Mistakes happen. It's quite hard. Like today, switching between screens, it's difficult. Just take a moment, breathe, and just talk to the audience as you're doing it. Tell them what's happening. And just remember, calm on the outside first, and then calm on the inside later. So if you talk with a calm voice and you take the time, you'll actually find that yourself becoming calmer as you're talking. Everyone still gets nervous though, so don't worry about that. We've got some web accessibility resources here. I threw in one as a test there just to kind of see if you'd notice it, and it just to show you that it looks messy and it doesn't tell you what you need to do. So again, what we'd be looking to do there would be to write some text out and then insert a link into that to make it accessible. As a video on the free accessibility checker that will just run through some of the things that we've shown today. So that'll be there as a resource for you in the slides. This webinar came from a college request, so thank you to the college that requested it. And it's just a reminder that if there's things you want webinars on, let us know. Maybe there's some accessibility and other programs that you want to know more about, then let us know. We could do an additional webinar making and editing a PowerPoint template. or cover more features in PowerPoint, like the recording facility, because we didn't really have time to touch on that today. And stay in touch. Let me know how you're getting on. I'd love to see the presentations you make. Let me know if you've got any comments or questions. And thank you for listening.